All right, Frang and Mack podcast, beantownblitz.wordpress.com. Go check it out. Here we go again. We got nothing really to talk about in the sports world here locally, so this is the time of year where we kind of got to just drum up conversation. So we're going to get into the Patriots and what's a realistic possibility for them in the first 4 weeks of the season because we don't have Tom Brady. We're not going to have Tom Brady for the first 4 weeks. That's pretty much a given. Now we really got to face what it's going to be like, life without Brady. And Frank, what do you think it's going to be like? I have a hard time thinking of what it's going to be like.
No, not that I want to drum up any more Deflategate, conversation or speculation, but I think Brady's fighting a losing battle. The court is not reviewing the evidence correctly. They're reviewing it based on Goodell's ability, the CBA, his ability to basically suspend anybody based on any infraction. So regardless that there's a lack there of evidence, Tom Brady's going to lose this losing courts again. I think we're going to be without, like you said, Brady for the first 4 games. Realistically, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a good enough quarterback, especially with the story you just wrote on the website that, from 2 through 53, I think the Patriots are good enough to go 3-1. They have 3 home games. I think the hardest thing is just going to be opening night, September 11, Sunday night game, 8:30 in Arizona. Arizona's a Super Bowl contender. I think they drop that game. I think Jimmy Garoppolo struggles. Maybe those first game, first career start jitters. But this team, I think, is good enough to go 3-1. What do you think?
I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo guy, so I want to say they're going to go 2-2, maybe 1-3. Last year, I said that coming off the top. I said there's a good chance they could go 1-3. But this year, I think they're like I wrote the piece this morning. I think the roster is too good through 53 to go even 2-2. I think they can go 3-1, possibly 4-0. I don't think they'll win that first game in Arizona, but you never know. I mean, you never know how Bill's going to have these guys come out and they could shock the world. But I think their roster is just stacked because they have enough guys around Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, Matt Castle had Randy Moss and Wes Welker. That was basically it back in 2008. And they went 11-5 with an aging defense. Now Jimmy Garoppolo's got Rob Gronkowski. He's got Julian Edelman. He's got Dan Amendola just restructured. He's got Chris Hogan coming in. He's got Dion Lewis coming back. He's got James White, Martellus Bennett. He's got all these weapons to, play around with. I think there's no excuse for them going any less than 3-1, really. If you go any less than 3-1, it's a disappointment.
Yeah, I think 3-1 is probably worst case scenario because I think the first game is definitely a wild card. You have basically the entire summer, the entire offseason to prepare for Arizona. I think it's tough to say that they're automatically going to lose it because they will have a shot. It will be a phenomenal game. I still think even with Jimmy G struggling in that first career start jitters, I mean, it's normal, first start in the NFL. I still think it will be a good game and they'll be competitive. I just can't see that with the entire summer, with the practices, the preseason, that Jimmy G won't be ready and then Bill Belichick won't get Jimmy Garoppolo ready for week 1. So I guess we call it a wild card, even though I usually use that term only for divisional games.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting, especially the summer. Last year, I know Brady's suspension was pending, but it really seemed like all throughout training camp, the Patriots had the confidence that, he was going to be around for the first week of the season. But this year, I think it's kind of coming to realism that he's not going to be around. So I think they'll probably give Jimmy Garoppolo the majority of the first team snaps. So that should get him ready for week 1. But like you said, it's going to be tough going into, a very hostile environment on Sunday Night Football against a very, very good defensive front.
Yeah, and I think, talk about another controversy or conspiracy theory. They open up on the road, but the next 3 games are home. In the NFL, there's only 16 games, only 8 are at home. 3 of those are right in the first 4 weeks, and that means that season ticket holders, New England fans, don't get to see their golden boy Tom Brady at home. So I don't know if that was just the unfortunate schedule gods coming down or if that was Goodell pushing more chips in the middle saying, you know what, let's give them a bunch of home games early on just because, you know what, it's 3 less games that New England Patriots fans get to see Tom Brady start in Foxborough.
Well, that's a very conspiracy theorist way of thinking of it because I think about the opposite. And don't get me wrong, I love going to Patriots games and seeing Tom Brady, but I mean, if it's going to translate to wins, which they are phenomenal, probably the best home team in the NFL, I'll take it because you get 3 home games with a young, inexperienced quarterback against 3 pretty easy teams, maybe minus Houston. Division games, you never know. But I'll take that any day of the week. That's the only reason I think they could go 3-1 because I think they win all 3 home games just because they're that good at home.
Don't call me a conspiracy theorist or crazy, how they are. They're aliens with the, guys that wear hats. But, it really isn't that far-fetched if you look at the way the national media, I'm not going to name any conglomerates, but I think we know the 4-letter, network, that the way they've handled the coverage, the way the draft coverage was where, they cut to a commercial when the Patriots announced their pick. Kevin Falk with a great shout-out. Representing Tom Brady wearing the jersey. But other than that, cutting to picks, not talking about the draft picks as much. The very, very soft, very not so intense interviews with Roger Goodell. I think anything that the national media portrays, it's tough to not think that they have it, an agenda. Let's put it that way.
I mean, yeah, that's very safe to say, but I just don't know how far that goes to the schedule making. Like I said, I will take it. I will take the 3 home games. That's why I think they go 3-1. I think they will take care of business against Miami and Buffalo just because they're Miami and Buffalo, and they have a very tough time playing at Gillette Stadium. Houston, Thursday night's kind of a toss-up, but, having to travel from Houston to Foxborough on a short week, that's going to be tough for the Texans. That's why I think the Patriots win that game. Therefore, I think they go 3-1, and you will think the same thing, it appears.
But let me ask you this, because I don't think that the local media has done a good enough job of debating it. And I know it's kind of a dead area right now. The Celtics are knocked out. The Bruins didn't make the playoffs. Patriots are in the offseason. It's really just, national sports of the playoffs of hockey and baseball, hockey and basketball, and the Red Sox, who are currently winning 5-0. Do you think that there will be a shakeup if Garoppolo starts out of the gate swinging and they start 4-0? The stats are great. He looks not average. I'm saying good. Do we have a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers controversy? Is Tom Brady going to be pushed out? Could they move on for Brady if someone picks up the phone and says, we're going to give you 2 first-rounders for Tom Brady? I know this is a lot of hypotheticals, but the team's good. If Garoppolo starts 4-0 and looks great, could we see Tom Brady's future as a Patriot be on its way out?
Absolutely not, because you've seen what's happened in this past year. Who has the number 1 jersey sales for a player in the NFL? Tom Brady, the past, I think, 4 market periods. The way that Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick at this entire organization have just, public relations, PR, this thing the entire way. Everybody's gotten behind Tom Brady. Everybody's got Tom Brady jerseys now. There's just absolutely no way they could go through this entire mess and then just trade him as soon as, Garoppolo looks pretty good. I mean, I just don't see it happening. And I also just think Tom Brady's a better player now. I know people are going to say, Drew Bledsoe, he went down. Brady came in. Drew Bledsoe was terrible when he went down. He was throwing picks left and right. Tom Brady is still the top 2 quarterback in the NFL, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. I just don't see it any way of it happening. Jimmy G plays good the first 4 games, above average. Okay, trade deadlines are after week 4. Get rid of him there. Get rid of him in the offseason.
Yeah, I can see them going a similar route just because they drafted a quarterback in this past draft. I know most likely they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks, which they don't usually do, just because of this ongoing suspension. I guess you want a 3rd quarterback on the roster just in case due to injury. But I guess this probably, in my opinion, and I'm a Jimmy G guy. I thought he was the next guy when they drafted him. He looked good against Kansas City last year or 2 seasons ago. Not too many snaps last year, obviously, because Brady was, on the field. But I'm a Jimmy G guy. I think he can, be the heir apparent, but he's not. And it's clear that he's not, that they drafted a quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. So I think best case scenario is that the stock is going to rise on Jimmy G and then they flip him. But I know I brought up the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers thing where it was – I guess it was fair to say that it was a little bit more obvious and clear cut that Aaron Rodgers will be that next guy. They were going to give him a chance to start and be the next guy to lead the Packers. So they kind of pushed out Brett Favre. But I guess you could probably use a closer scenario, a closer situation. I think it might be the Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning situation that happened a couple years ago in Indianapolis, where you have an aging quarterback. I guess, coming off the surgery, missed a year. That's different from Tom Brady's case, but they chose to win for the next 10 years to 15 years than to win in the next 5 years. So I guess you have to look at it through that scope as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just think 4 weeks is tough to evaluate that if he's the guy or not. At least when Andrew Luck was coming out, it was surefire, he's the guy, and we're getting rid of Peyton Manning anyways. And
whoa. So you thought Andrew? I mean, I know he was drafted #1 overall. I think he's had a pretty solid career thus far, even though I think he digressed a little bit last year because of injuries. But he never played a snap in the NFL. So they took a chance. They gambled the organization that they took Andrew Luck over Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. Andrew Luck has struggled against New England, most notably in the playoffs. He was injured all of last year, and a 40-year-old quarterback had to come in for most of the games. So I guess you have to take into account that as well. At least we saw little baby snippets of Jimmy Garoppolo in play, albeit, garbage time. But against Kansas City, that blowout two years ago, 6 for 7, scored, led them to a touchdown drive where they had previously only had 7 points. So I guess you got to take it for face value.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I think Andrew Luck's the guy. I'm saying I'm bringing it back to 2012 when he was the highest rated quarterback coming out of the draft in 10 years. He looked like he was the guy. Peyton Manning looked like he was on the way out. Obviously, that was a botched mistake by the Colts, front office.
Is it though? Because now Peyton Manning is retired.
Well, I mean, if you want to win a Super Bowl, in the past 5 years as opposed to the next 10 years, I don't. Does Andrew look like?
I think Andrew Luck can win a Super Bowl in Indianapolis, but they just need the competency of their owner, because it starts at the top with all his problems, and it just it's a lateral effect. They got to get, if Jim Irsay can stay clean and do his thing as an owner, the GM needs to respond. I think they don't do a good enough job of putting pieces around him, but I think he can win a Super Bowl in his career.
I mean, yeah, I haven't seen it from him yet. I mean, obviously he's still early, but I mean, I think after year 2, he looked like he was really going to be the next star, and I haven't seen it yet from him in these last 2 years. He really hasn't taken that next step. I understand he gets hurt, but I mean, if you're going to draft a guy who runs a lot, that's going to come with the territory, and I just haven't seen him take that next step over the last 2 seasons.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, and this, for all we know, this conversation could be worth nothing in a couple months if Tom Brady wins this overruling of the judge and wins in court. Then all of a sudden, Jimmy G's right back to the bench, and Tom Brady, and this conversation doesn't mean anything. So
let's hope it's that.
Yeah, I mean, best that would probably be best, and of course, no more Deflategate talk. I think we're all done with that story, that non-witch hunt story. But anyways, Beantown Blitz, Frang and Mack, another podcast. Be sure to visit the beantownblitz.wordpress.com. Follow us on Twitter for more content. Thanks for watching and listening.